very much with very little. And because we are so dedicated and so invested in the sector that we play, and we can piece together management account, our investment analysts that interact with our stakeholders. But I think what's important over and above the number of transactions that we do is what we call our empowerment dividend. So VP spoke about where's the dividend.
You get some women who are married in community of property and cannot take decisions without their husbands. And therefore, there's a lack of assets and there's refusal or inability to provide surety for loans. How is the NEF addressing these challenges and ensuring that it does not continue to increase? Thank you.
I think, yeah, thanks for that question. It's quite loaded. But intention drives action, you know. And my colleague said something that I wanted to highlight as well, that you cannot, aspirations as a company, given the impact that you want to achieve. So we understood those challenges, particularly because maybe we've got a strong women representation at the NEF, so those issues find themselves set up, a women-only fund. We call it a women empowerment fund, where it must be majority, whatever strategic considerations you may have, but we were intentional to say, actually, we're setting aside our, 25%. That's the only way we will start to see these returns. So with that intention and with the culture inculcated, in most of the people that serve within the NEF, and those principles cascading down, we've been able to ensure that 40% of the monies that we've dispersed have been for the benefit of women. And that's something we stand proud of, and we challenge our counterparts, and not that we challenge them and, wait for them to, once again, and our BBC colleagues are familiar with that, but maybe for the benefit of the members. If you think about the intention and opinions, initially, when the NEF was established, there was a promise of 10 billion rand. And that 10 billion rand never fully flowed to the NEF. So only 2.5 billion has flowed. So when I mention ours, and so we've developed a strategy where we do partner with private sector institutions, to manage their ED. So some of those include BP, they include Transnet, which was on stage earlier on, and we're now in our second round of when you've got that ED budget, it is going towards
bank by South Africa.
The importance of the work that we're doing at the Post Bank. But before I go deeper into what is it exactly that we're doing, I wish to make a few submissions. I suppose following again what is a capital lines, when today, it's happening now, it hits the fan, there's no bank, no DFI to back you. That's why, Greg, today, when I've got financials, I've got all the, the financial information, why must I complete the form? That's usually a 30-page form. It's daunting, trust me. You get to the financials, you've got that 5-year set of AFs, the financials, the financial section in the form. They want you to write down what you have on paper. Then you want us to grow the economy. I've got to spend 2 days, repetitive time lag. You submit today, they'll acknowledge, and then of course, the flow that you're sitting with today. Over and above, putting it back to you to say, the financial system in the country is unequal, and it's racialized. I wish to submit and say, that's a fundamental flaw of our democracy. And Greg, as much as it's important to sit here and talk about these things, But we have to have the policymakers here in these rooms, the ministers, the presidents, and, the financiers. I want Zama and her team here. That's how really we can transmit the feelings, the views back to the people screens. You know, craft the macros, people behind the macros, the credit risk guys that will never know. That's how the system deals with you. So, we've been in existence for more than 100 years. We're actually a leader in savings. And many of you will attest to this, that deposit money, right? And then, you know, they come back, there's, you know, $100, etc. Some of us still have, you know, I've had, of course, a privilege because my grandparents were working for the post office. So the savings culture, the bank that I'm part of, the bank that I've got the privilege of leading, has always been engraved in that. That's what you do, that's what you understand. Of course, knowing the fundamentals and appreciating the fundamentals and the challenges of us as the people, of us as business people, of us as, you know, businesses, we've got then to shift the game. Suggest that and thoroughly, properly addressed. A few years ago, the banking system was actually lobbied to come up with something that's called a Mzansi account. We still have those accounts. I'm not sure it's meant to broaden access just to a bank account. Enable. It's a system where you have a bank account, you are able to transact and receive money, use a card, access to facilities, etc. That has not been added through obviously the wide infrastructure that we have. Footprint, we've got that. You know, we've got a sticky market purely because of our expertise in understanding the savings and the savings culture, you know, the expertise in platform I'm addressing financial expertise, convenience. It's convenience. When we talk financial inclusion from our perspective, we are saying let's enable the beneficiaries, the SASSA beneficiaries that we pay every month, our core clients, you know, an opportunity to interact with the system in a cost-effective manner, efficient manner, of course, and safe environment, right? And of course, deploying the services to where, you know, are mostly needed. My grandma, when they go to access their grants, they can't travel where they'll incur $80 or 80 rand, you know, for a single trip. You know, I've got to develop expertise to enable them to participate without, you know, incurring more costs. So that's on the main, the way the work.
Summarize it well. Thank you so much. The last question I have for you there, while we're still talking about inclusion, how do we encourage transformation and inclusivity within the South African financial and banking landscape and hold them accountable?
You've got to deracialize it. Your answer that are driving me is the tech that's coming from the townships. Ordinarily or traditionally, you expect technology to come from Stellenbosch or Sandton. But the bespoke technology that in my is driven mainly by experiential, you know, the experience. I know how the system is. If I'm saying the system is unjust, that's what I'm experiencing, which then says that the solution that I'm bound to come up with will address my reality. I'm not sure whether it's by coincidence or design, but that has been my experience. All the tech that I see, all the tech that I interact with, I've got no issues with changing the landscape, more especially the system to, I suppose, bring the system to where we should be, the reality that we call it. black hoping to gonna happen. The public presenting, you've got to amend and to amend the legislation in the economy today. Work, it's got to bite. It's got to start addressing the fundamentals. One of the colleagues mentioned that we, the people. But again, colleagues, I wish to warn against that thinking. We, the people, we are not Omunache. If BBC supported when the Post-Bank Amendment Bill went through the Parliament, National Assembly, as well as the NCOP, right? There's few other black associations here. Have they submitted a paper to say, we as Organization A, we supported this bill because we understand what the Post Bank seeks to achieve, and we understand the importance of the Post Bank in the country. So I'm calling for that to say, let's not be bystanders in a game that we should be playing. We've got the power. And lastly, is the bank, essentially of South Africans. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it from our panelists to ask a question. It's going to be very important that we support the Black Business Council. We have to pay our membership fees. If we don't pay our membership fees, the Black Business Council cannot help us when we are getting obstacles and challenges with these funding institutions when we need help. So we're gonna need to pay our membership fees so that the Black Business Council can be that force that helps us, and that's the power that we have. Now I'm gonna open the floor for questions. In the green, I'll take
First round,
you.
two
Okay,
questions.
please make it quick.
Thank you from a private sector perspective, because we do business with private sector. When they measure their success, they are really measuring the revenue, which is their spend that they spend with black businesses. And I think you are aware that for a lot of black businesses, if they are lucky, they only stay with 8% or less of that billions or millions of rands, really because they don't own the value chain, right? And I really just want to hear your thoughts around maybe looking at changing businesses. And I think the follow-up is really around if we look at ownership. So we have acquired quite a few stakes in different, in a sense that there is no follow. You acquire do the acquisition. Don't you think there is a missed opportunity, financial capacity, and the backup to fight the very same monopoly that they bought into? Things.
Okay, thank you. Can we get the second question? If you can just get straight to the point for the question. Thank you.
Sure. I would like to thank all the speakers. I am Sanae Mbata. I'm an attorney. I've got my own firm. And I would like to concur with Mr. Wongi, as well as the Vice President. And then I have a question for Mr. Matona, as well as Uzama. Legislation, all these BEE rules. But then the thing is, as a youth business owner, the same legislation, the same rules that you guys have implemented, they do not favor us. For instance, if there is a tender of...
I've started